welcome to the third episode of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormbringer, taking you on a guided tour of the first 5 issues of your Stormbringer subscription. I'm Lizzie.
And I'm Alex. This time we're having a rummage through issue 3, where you'll learn all about the realm of beasts and the terrifying monsters that call it home. You'll also get to see what life in the mortal realms is like through a field guide to some of the monsters that can be found in the Age of Sigmar.
It's a little too much for my brave Knight Arcanum to handle on her own, but reinforcements have arrived in the form of 5 Stormcast Eternals Vindictors, stalwart defenders of order. We'll be finding out how to build them and then putting our whole collection through its first major battle.
But first, let's have a look at Gur, the realm of beasts. We learned a little bit about the mortal realms in issue 2, but in this issue there's a detailed profile on Gur. In this unforgiving land, every living thing is a predator and prey, and only the strongest survive. Some of the fiercest monsters in the mortal realms make their home here, and few scholars are lucky enough to see one and survive, let alone study them. This issue of Stormbringer includes case files on 2 particularly vicious beasts: the Maw-Crusher, a lumbering behemoth beloved by the Ironjaws, and the Carnosaur, a colossal razor-toothed lizard ridden by the mystical Seraphon. The who? You'll find out in a later issue. There's also a detailed profile for the Vindictors included in this issue, but since Lizzie is Sigmar's chosen, we'll pass it over to her.
Every Stormcast Eternal is a mortal hero plucked from death and reforged into an immortal warrior of order. They have an illustrious legacy of valour, and it's only right you give them heroic names to match. Most important is your Vindictor Prime, the squad champion, who usually lends their name to the unit they lead. Don't worry if coming up with your own stories for each model is daunting, you'll find plenty of tables for generating awesome names to get you started. Perhaps you'll assemble Celine's Guardians, caring defenders of mortal folk led by a former warrior priest, or Mariana's Watchers, who stalk through the swamps hunting Kruleboyz. Let's get to building our Vindictors. If you've been following this series, you'll know that you need a pair of hobby clippers to remove the parts from their sprues, making careful cuts with smooth, gentle motions to avoid damaging models. Cut as close as you can to the component so you're not left with any bits sticking out when you're done. Make sure to attach the heads to the bodies before securing them in place with a back or chest piece. When attaching the arms holding spears, avoid placing too much pressure on the weapons themselves, as they may bend or break. Instead, push firmly on the shoulder pad until the component sits flush with the body. You may also find it easier to attach the shields to their arms before adding them to the body. Just make sure none of your Vindictors pinches their boss's special shield. Lastly, slot the completed models into their large round bases with the hexagonal pegs on their feet. As these bases have 2 matching holes for a single peg, you may need to rotate the model until you find a position that fits and keeps them roughly in the centre of the base. The spare hole can be covered up by one of the small detail parts found on the sprue.
Issue 3 introduces 2 core concepts that are a vital part of the Warhammer Age of Sigmar experience: dice rolls and Warscrolls. We already know how to roll a d6, but the game will often require you to add or subtract from results, compare rolls with your opponent, or deal with dice that aren't quite flat on the table. All of this is covered here, including how to roll a d3, which is how you use a 6-sided dice to pick a number from 1 to 3.
We already know how to roll to hit, wound and make an armour save. In full games of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, the target numbers you need to roll are found on a unit's Warscroll. These sheets contain almost everything you need to use your model on the tabletop. You'll be learning the game with basic versions, but most full Warscrolls contain special abilities that make every unit feel truly unique.
This roundel shows a model's basic capabilities, including how many wounds they can sustain and their armour save. In later issues, we'll also tell you how far a unit can move and how brave they are. These statistics cover each model in a unit, so a unit of 5 Vindictors will have a total of 10 wounds. The centre of the Warscroll shows the weapons available to the unit, the number of attacks they can make, and the rolls required to successfully hit and wound with them. Now, you can make an attack by selecting a weapon from the list, rolling the number of dice shown, and working through the hit, wound, and save sequence as normal. You'll add a few more steps to this sequence in later issues, but don't worry, attacking things is pretty fundamental to Warhammer Age of Sigmar, so you'll pick it up in no time.
Now it's time to put our new models to the test. My Stormcast Eternals have had enough of being ambushed and are determined to drive the Cruel Boys from the ruins once and for all.
But we're not having it. The killer boss quite likes his lair and won't be giving it up without a fight. Calling some gut rippers to his side and flanked by his trusty Stabgrot, the mean green machine is determined to hold his ground and send Sigmar's champions back to the heavens they came from.
Set up the models on your battle mat as shown in the diagram. The Vindictors should be opposite the killer boss and Stabgrot, while the gut rippers face the Knight Arcanum. Once everyone's in place, move them into the center circles. In this scenario, my Knight Arcanum gets to swing first. Excellent. The Stormcast Eternals are off to a great start, hitting with all 3 attacks and wounding with 2. Can I wipe out a Gut Ripper before he can blink?
My Gut Ripper fails both of his armor saves and dies a grisly death. The Gut Rippers strike next, followed by the Vindictors and finally the killer boss, so play out each attack sequence until one side beats the other into submission. Oh, don't forget that the Stabgrot gets to make his attacks too. He might look weedy, but that knife will still get through a join in someone's armor.
It looks like I've got an early advantage, but a few lucky strikes are all it takes to turn the tide of battle. Make sure to turn the page and find out what happens when your team wins. It won't be the last time these forces clash, and with more miniatures arriving in nearly every issue, your battles are only going to get grander.
Thanks for joining us. There are 2 more episodes to come and the next one's a cracker. It's finally time to put some colour onto your miniatures with your first 4 pots of paint and paintbrush.
Painting is one of the cornerstones of Warhammer. You'll start with basic techniques like undercoating and base coating, and before long you'll be creating your own masterpieces.
You'll also put your entire collection into action with another exciting battle, introducing more key rules as the full might of the Stormcast Eternals and Cruel Boys meet for a decisive rumble. If you haven't already subscribed, head to the Stormbringer website now and make sure all of your future issues are delivered directly to your door. You'll even get some exclusive subscriber gifts, like your own hobby kit, free with the first shipment of 4 issues. Check it out now, and we'll see you next time.